All right, so we got the Wu-Tang Clan going. We're jamming to it here, and
Little pre-party.
there we go. We got the stream going, so now people can join the party. And
Nice.
we're talking about the Wu-Tang Clan, and I was saying
Give
that
me some education.
yeah, how it started was the RZA, who was then known as Prince Rakeem, had released an album called "Ooh We Love You, Rakeem," and didn't get much love. Didn't really get the promotion that he felt he deserved. Didn't get the positive feedback from the record label. So he devised this plan. He was like, what if I got all of the best MCs that I know? He's got his cousin, the Jizza. He's got his cousin, Old Dirty Bastard. They're both rappers. The Jizza had
There's
released.
cousins? I didn't
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
they're family, right? So it starts with this like nucleus, and he's like, I get everybody to come together, and in the words of the Wu Tang, they're gonna form like Voltron, right? And
Oh, nice.
and so it becomes this idea that it's all the best rappers in the area that have previously kind of like battled, and he's like, no, wait, hold on, if we all work together, we're gonna sign this contract, and we're gonna release this album called Enter the Wu-Tang, the 36 Chambers. And what'll be so great is not only will we release this album as a group, and every MC will have like a chance to shine on it and get to work with these crazy beats that I'm producing, but then everybody's gonna go be able to sign to whatever record label they want. They don't have to stay on this contract. You can go off. Method Man's gonna go off and he's gonna sign, and Old Dirty Bastard, he's gonna go produce an album. Return to the 36 Chambers, the dirty version, right? And Ghostface
Okay.
Killer, he's gonna release an album, and then Raekwon's gonna release an album, and You God's gonna release an album. Master Killer's gonna release an album eventually, long in the future. I don't know why it took him so goddamn long. But that album's amazing. No said date. And it's this idea that like we were rivals. We were, all trying to push for the hype ourselves. But if we all come together, release the dopest album that anyone's ever heard, with this whole new sound, this grimy, gritty, cinematic, underground, just dirty funk, we're gonna change the world. And so they did. And that's the story in quite abbreviated fashion of the Wu-Tang Clan. Where,
Wow. Okay, so first of all, I didn't know like one, like some of them were family.
Mhm.
Two, I didn't know the Wu-Tang Clan was that big.
There were 9 original members. The RZA, the
Okay.
Jizza, Old Dirty Bastard, Raekwon, Inspector Deck, You God, Ghostface Killer, Method Man.
Ghostface Killer.
I think I'm forgetting somebody. There's too damn many.
Yeah, no shit.
Fuck.
But just the funky line, the beat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even the beat, it's that zzz, and it's a sample from something, which I don't know what it is, but the way you put it all together in Cream is just so like, oh my God, like it starts up, they're chatting, and then all of a sudden it just hits. You're like, how can you not move your head to that shit?
Yeah. That horn sample is off the chain.
Yes.
So why are we talking about the Wu-Tang Clan?
It's a nice little intro thing to get our voices wet. We've got like
It gets
5
us
minutes
into
before the start, you know?
Yeah. But what does
But-
Cream stand for? What is the Wu-Tang
That's
trying
why
to
we're
tell
really
you?
talking about it,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
why we're really talking about it.
Cash rules everything around me.
The cash rules.
Why?
Everything.
Why does cash rule it?
Well, I mean, money, right? You gotta have
Cash
money to
money.
live, and the cash, the value that it represents, the power that it represents, is undeniable, right? Everybody
True.
wants more money. Nobody has enough money, it seems.
Right.
And
People hoard it in droves. Sometimes they
Yeah.
don't even use it.
yeah, sometimes they're sitting
They
on
lose
it like
sight
dragons.
of pursuit of life
Mm-hmm.
for the money,
Mm-hmm.
and may even lose family and everything that they love and realize, oh shit, what did I do?
Yeah,
Some people love it too, though.
but it's the final ruler, the arbiter, right? Yeah, it says this is what's true and this is what's not. If it was true, you made money off of it.
Arbiter.
If it was false, then no money was made.
No mas for you, no money for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting how we elevated money to be the ruler, right? And I mean ruler
Did we
and
elevate it? Maybe it just went there, right? Because
well,
like
if we didn't do it, then who
I don't
did
know.
it?
Go ahead.
Money doesn't do it itself, right? It has to be human beings.
Right.
So I mean, when I say we, I mean society, history, the path that we've chosen. Again, we being everybody, and we had
Right.
a lot of debates about this and what money was going to mean, but eventually it became the ruler, right? And I mean that in both senses. It's the ruler is who's in charge, and it's also the measure, right, of what is good or what is not. How much is that watch worth? Well, if a watch is worth $500, it's obviously twice as good as one that's $250, right? That's the definition
Right.
of value, right? And
Right.
that's not really true. It's not really twice as good, maybe at keeping time, or maybe not twice as good looking, but in some way, we've decided that a watch that's $500 is twice as good as a watch that's $250, right?
Because of the idea of money.
Because of the idea of money and exchange and value, right? If you can get somebody to pay $500, you only have to make one watch, right? And if they're only paying you $250, then you'd have to make 2 watches to get that same amount of value. So in reality, that price tag, whatever something is worth, becomes its ultimate signifier in our society of what it is.
Of worth. Yeah.
Of
what
worth
it,
and
of what it
value.
is. Ooh, well said.
Yeah. So those are the conscious and unconscious biases that start to creep in, right? When we start to look at things. And they've done this study. Like if you give some people some wine and you say, hey, this wine is worth $85 a bottle, they're going to think it tastes better than exactly the same wine if you say, like, this is $5 a bottle. And the $85 a bottle, they're going to be like, it's so delicious, it's amazing, it's really good. And the $5, it's not too bad, but it's not great. Because we want to be in tune with that, right? There's some psychological need that we seem to have to be in tune with the value, right? Surely our taste buds are delicate and discerning enough to know that if it's $85, it's good, and if it's $5, it's a little bit less palatable to us.
Right. It's not as good as the 85.
Yeah. So we create these. They're like illusions, but they're more real than real life, right? They're more human than human, to borrow from Blade Runner. It's the ideas and the memes of value that then start controlling and determining our behavior, right? Because we then search out for that which maximizes money and value.
Things that are of more value, because then we can have that gives us an advantage, right? Because we can exchange it for something more of what we want, whatever's next.
Right.
It's the way we move about and be in the world, which is really interesting. Think about it. I was like, oh wait, yeah, actually you have to pursue those things of worth to be able to have it and keep it, to be able to exchange it for worth in the future, to have a future need, want, desire.
And if you reject it completely, if you say, I'm out of this game of money, society is like, you're out of society, right? You become put on the fringes, right? We see those people walking around, and that all they have is what they're pushing.
Right.
So it's so interesting that we have this kind of scoring system, but yet it's completely arbitrary. But so powerful, right? It's powerful because of its arbitrariness, almost, because it's so flexible, is that it can accommodate anything you want to do, right? It can be like, well, we can assign value to that, and say that people are willing to pay to come see you, lie on a bed of nails, or people are not, right? People are not entertained by that. Will not exchange value.
Right. Even you, a person of novelty.
Yeah.
can be included
Yeah.
in the idea of money, because cash rules everything around me.
Yeah. Not most things.
Cool.
Everything. Everything.
I know everything. Are we streaming?
We're streaming. Yeah.
Cool. Just making sure.
Oh yes.
Well, cool. We're into it now, which is the money and value, which we've been talking about.
Yes. So
Okay.
we should say
so
that
go ahead.
this is
Yeah.
Zero Trust Cast, episode 7, which is a continuation of some conversations that we were having in 6. But we kind of went with a little soft opening there, a little Wu-Tang history.
Yes.
Little
Yes.
cash rules everything around me. But we're gonna get into our zero trust philosophy of these things, because money and value dovetails nicely into how we're looking at our world, how we're interpreting it, and the decisions that we're going to then make, because it is a huge unconscious and conscious bias that we have, right? If something's free, it's immediately suspect, because there must be some ulterior motive, right?
Yep.
Even if it's altruism, even if that person's like, I just want to give you money so that you have it. Okay, what's the value in that?
What is the drive? Yeah. Why do
Yeah.
you choose altruism? Yeah.
Right.
Because there's a reason. There's something behind it. It
Right.
didn't just every moment come into existence and go altruism,
Mm-hmm.
altruism. No, you have to choose that actively. That's the crazy thing about this life. At least that's what's been shown to be true. Now, does that mean it'll be true tomorrow? Who knows?
Right. Well, we're starting to see kind of an interesting breakdown in this. So the one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you saw it, because I know you kind of are trying to unplug from the media and social media and all that stuff, but there's this stock trading app, Robinhood. You're aware of it?
Yes.
Right. And so this allows kind of amateur investors to get themselves into really big trouble. There was a news story, I think it was this week, or maybe it was last week, but it's still kind of hanging around, that there was a kid who was doing options trading and didn't really understand how he was getting his money leveraged, and ended up with a negative balance of like $107,000, right? Some huge sum of money, right? That he owes the Robinhood trading app, and he kills himself over this, right? Because
wow, that went dramatic real quick. Go ahead. Sorry, was not expecting that.
Right.
Okay.
So the very act of looking at your app and seeing a negative balance of $107,000 might be enough to say, you know what, I've failed in such a fundamental, terminal way that the only way out of this is to end my life. Right. That's how serious money is. Right. We know that, but this is a direct example of how that's true. There's also another corollary of this Robinhood app, and I don't want to pick on it too much, but it enables people to make some strange decisions, because they're only seeing part of the system. They're seeing a little tiny window of what Robinhood is showing them, and that's the behavior of the Hertz stock. So Hertz is a rental car company. Rental car company is suffering very, very badly right now. They have a lot of assets, cars that they bought, that are now really depreciating. Yep, they're sitting around, not being rented, therefore not accruing revenue coming in, but yet you still have to make the payments to the car company that you bought the cars from. And so Hertz does what a rational company would do in this situation, where there's no way out, and they say, we're going bankrupt. Okay.
Right.
For some reason, traders on Robinhood are like, hey, that looks like a good buying opportunity. Look how cheap that stock is falling so quickly. And they start buying it up. And so Hertz stock starts to go back up. And that leads more people to be like, hey, there's some money to be made in buying Hertz. I'm going to buy more Hertz stock. Hertz sees this, and they release this insane press release that says, okay, we're in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, if you don't know how this works, there's secured debt and unsecured debt, right? There's somebody's going to come in and basically buy up Hertz, their debt,
Their assets that they can leverage
everything,
against the debt.
right?
Okay.
And they will be the most likely to get their money back as the company goes through bankruptcy, because they were the people who stepped up and said, we're going to take on this sick, dying company and see if we can fix it. The people who will not get any surety of getting their money back are common stockholders. So there's this huge disconnect. Hertz stock is going up. People are buying it, even though it's fundamentally now become worthless because the company's in Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Right.
And then Hertz says, this is going quite well for us. Our stock's going up because people are buying it. Let's release more stock. Let's sell more stock. Let's raise money by selling stock, because we can create it out of thin air.
While they're still going through Chapter 11?
Yeah. So this has never really happened before. But then again, there were never really these uneducated Robinhood traders out there, right? So they're only seeing the line go green or red, right, from where they bought it, and they don't really understand the fact that common stock in a company that's in Chapter 11 bankruptcy is in fact worthless. But Hertz is like, well, we should take advantage of this. Let's go ahead and issue stock. And the SEC has to come in and say, hey, wait a minute. That's really close to just being illegal, right?
Yeah, that's not going to be worth anything. What the fuck are you thinking? Yeah.
Right, and they said that in their release. Like the likelihood of you making any money on this stock if you buy it is pretty much zero, because the only way that we will ever be able to repay you for this stock would be if we can immediately go back to pre-pandemic levels of business. Well, the economy seems to be recovering and loosening up a little bit, but it's not going to immediately go back to people renting cars like they did in, January. That's just not going to happen. So it's this strange situation where people are seeing value that's not there and don't really understand the ramifications or the full totality of how the system is working and creating value, right? Their views are so limited that they get caught up in this mentality of, if it's going up, it must be worth more, which is sort of true in the short term. But in reality, once they went to Chapter 11, all the common stock is worthless, right? It's just a piece of paper.
Well, one of the things that I take, I think I challenge against what you're saying is, still, somebody had to start fucking going, they're going down, I'm going to buy them at a low.
Yeah.
They're down for a reason. So, they've got to, it's not just like, oh, low buy. It's those people that, they deserve what they get. Because, come on, you have to use some sense to do it, right? I mean, but if not, it's just then, okay, well, and they're going to learn from this. They're not going to not learn from this, right? Some of them may learn, very unfortunate, may affect them, their life savings, which I don't wish on anybody, but I mean, don't do that. If you're not educated in a thing, don't go oh, you know what? I've got my life savings. I'm going to go on this because it's low. Okay. If that's the logic you applied to it, you kind of get what you deserve. But it's
harsh. It's a harsh lesson to learn.
It is. Well, but so, I mean, I don't know enough, so that's why I don't have an account there, right? So that's why I'm not doing that. It's I don't have money to spend like that experimenting. And I also know it could be a tricky slippery slope, right? Say I wanted to start small penny stocks, those shouldn't be too hard, right? But you find something that's it's a good deal, and you start doing some research, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these cool things that go oh, if I buy this much, I'll get this over this. But also that the people putting that data out are kind of wanting to do the same thing. They want to make money off you. They're advertising for a reason. They have an agenda. They're puppeting it up for a reason. So you got to think through all that shit. And it's okay, whoa, that's a lot. So let me create some zero trust infrastructure to work through that first before I go in and go all right, let's go forward in an educated way to get something, right? To grow my money, so to speak.
Right.
But you still bring up something good, that it's stuff like this, to where people are getting on the bandwagon of ooh, it's low by Hertz, when and, you know, the people on the other side are going like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, this is not worth anything. And, you know, to almost worse, it's illegal.
Mm. Well, I mean, people made some money, right? There were some people who got it at $1.50. It went up to $3 and sold, right? And they did in fact make
Right.
some money, right? So there's always winners and
Right.
losers in these things. There's always somebody who's making the money and the person who's losing out, right? It's not
Right.
exactly a zero-sum game, but it kind of is, right?
Got it.
So those are the interesting kind of cognitive biases that are pulling people around these days, and that is a really good sort of entry point into why zero trust is so important and why we keep having this podcast and this conversation, is because there's so many systems out there that are so complex and so difficult to
Changing
understand
all the time
and changing very rapidly, right? And cryptocurrency, which I think we will probably have like a 4 or 5 episode arc on at some point later, is a really good example of how value is created and how value is related to trust, right? Because to value something, you have to trust that it is what it says it is, right? For
yes.
that Rolex, what Rolex probably is worth more than $500, but let's say it's a Rolex is worth $500.
I think it's, you add another zero and it's about
Sure.
5,000 usually.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So for that watch to be worth what it is, it has to be what it says on the tin, right? If you go later to a pawn shop and they're like, "Ah, this is a fake. It's worth $30." Well, it still tells the time. It still does all the things that a watch should do. It's been very accurate. It has a nice shiny gold face on it. And look at all this. It even says Rolex on it, but it's fake. Therefore, its value is much less. So
much less, yeah.
The trust, right, is that we have to know that what we're seeing or the information that we're receiving is in fact correct.
Correct. Yep.
Right. So that's what happened with the Hertz thing. They were seeing only part of the system. They were only seeing a little bit, and they took that as true. And it kind of was true, right? So this is a higher level of zero trust. Still. It was low.
Yeah.
It went up. Well, hey, if it was down and people are buying it and it's going up, then maybe I want to jump in and I want to buy and go up with them, right? Make some money with it.
Right.
But the underlying reality was different. And had they done their research, as you say, had they looked into it, they would have seen a more complete and more truthful version of reality.
Right. I'm wondering one thing.
Sure.
Was it maybe not public knowledge that they were in Chapter 11, or was it easily available that you could see they were in Chapter 11, thus why they were low?
They have to file a big,
because they're a public company, right?
Yeah, they're a public company. There's certain things that they have to do, and if you're going into bankruptcy, you have to tell everybody, we're going into bankruptcy. We'll go and we file this in court for everybody to see.
Yeah. So if we owe money to you, you might not possibly not get it. Right. Ultimately.
Well, no, they don't have to. They don't have to say that, really. You have to know the law for yourself. You have to kind of figure that out. That, okay, once they go into Chapter 11, there's a hierarchy of how people are going to get paid back. It's going to be determined by the court, and the people who have secured debt, who have bonds, they're going to get their money back first, right? So
got it.
There's all of this legal knowledge or legal complications that have obfuscated the truth a little bit to such a degree that people are, hey, it went down, it's going up, they're in Chapter 11, I don't know what that means, but I want to get on the train and make some money. So, that's how the system sort of functions to keep the money flowing where the people who have the most money want it to go. There's a certain implicit bias that says, if I have money, I can hire people to write laws that make it so that it's easy for me to make more money.
Oh, you just jumped into a big thing.
I
Let's not
did.
go there
Oh,
right
I think we
now.
should.
I think there's a lot more we need to put thought and effort into that though, because yeah, but also right now for how complicated, how many people we have on this world, to find so many things to be interested in and to actually have exchange as an idea that we use to streamline what we do. I think it's helpful, right? It's what's
Hmm.
made us advance as a society. So like, yeah, but we can't just go like, okay, and really like the people really with the money are the ones that are really making this thing, because yes, in effect they are, but it feels like there's a balancing power there. Otherwise, I think we would already be destroyed. We would have already destroyed each other with nuclear weapons. If we didn't have some checks and balances, I think we'd be a little worse off than we are right now. Though, you never know. From day to day, it feels like things get scarier and scarier. But it's always felt like that. I think also, even when I was younger, it was something else,
Hmm.
right? It was us versus Russia. It was the Cold War, and it just changed. Then it used to be your jobs were going to be lost to India and China because they were being exported. It's always something. Right? It's
Hmm.
always something that's going to destroy our way of life, right? And terrorism in the early 2000s.
Mm.
Right? It's just everything. The terrorism's still around today, and it's a big thing, but not as on everyone's mind as like now the new thing, the pandemic, and which is affecting our monetary systems globally.
Hmm.
Because we can't do what we used to do, but we're changing from that as well. We're responding from it. You called it, which I thought was interesting, that we're shifting more to a work from home situation.
Hmm.
That's seeing as a lot more viable, and companies are waking up to the fact that, like, God damn it, why didn't we do this 5 years ago?
Sure.
Right? So less office space. So, and also happier people. Sometimes they had to get over the hump of getting used to staying at home and dealing
Hmm.
with the X factor,
Sure.
being with the people that you're with all day long, every day.
Hmm.
That's a problem we overcome, but then we turn around and kind of enjoy the new way of life, right? Spend more times
Well,
with your kids because they're just a door away, right? They're not
sure.
a commute away.
So
So
for some
it's
people, it's
interesting.
it's been a net good, and for other people, maybe not. Um,
Good point.
but again, it's this idea of how there's the language that we're using, right? The the systems of thought are starting to move rapidly and evolve rapidly in response to these stresses on the system, right? So it's been really interesting to watch how companies are responding, right? And some companies are really aggressive in their response. I think it was Salesforce that said, "Hey, I think we're just going to have everybody work from home, remote, going forward. That works for us. We're a tech company. We're in the cloud anyway. That's sort of our thing, right?" But you can't have that same sort of mentality if you're in manufacturing, right? If you're actually building cars, um,
Right.
or doing something like farming or meat processing, right? Those systems are not yet remotable or automatable to the
Yeah.
point where,
Automated yet. Yep.
right?
Exactly.
So the future is sort of unevenly emerging out of this chaotic situation that we find ourselves in. So there's points
Well
of
said.
increased order, right? Increased systemic control. Some systems are improving and becoming more reliable, and some systems
Right.
are becoming less reliable and less trusted. And it's really been
Ooh.
an interesting process to see this play out just over these few months, right? In response
Okay.
to um, kind of I would say, a light shock to the system. This wasn't really a heavy thing, right? Not not to say that
What do you
it's
mean?
okay. A heavy shock to the
What's
system
what's not a heavy thing? Oh, there you go. Okay, go
would
ahead.
be the Black Plague, right? Which my wife was
Okay.
educating me on earlier today, right?
Okay.
Imagine if over the span of about 4 or 5 weeks, 70% of the people you know are dead. That's a huge systemic shock, right? That's
Yes.
something that
Yes.
just blows away all of your internal biases, expectations, knowledge of the world, right? You're going to have to completely readjust your thinking.
It changes your SOP basically for life.
Yes.
Yeah, everything. You start to question everything and you lock
Right.
everything down. Yeah, yeah.
Right. What
Emergency mode.
what we've had
Well said.
is serious, right? and may have been amplified to appear more serious than it actually was by media bias, by reporting what interests the people the most and what's more interesting than a pandemic. But at the same time, the vast majority are still kind of just going along with their lives, except for the fact of how it's been disrupted by our reaction, right? So it wasn't the initial shock so much as the reaction to it, as how we as human beings and societies started to respond to this challenge. Again, some systems became stronger, became more dominant, right? The work from home philosophy, the ability to telecommute, the tech, right? Was like, this is no problem. We know exactly how to deal with this. We're just going to set up a Zoom meeting and we'll handle our business that way. Work through it.
Yeah, they're actually creating other solutions which are providing help for their industry and other industries that are less able and ready to respond so quickly. So give me some examples of some that have been affected negatively. Just if you could bring those out to, like, because we talk about tech all the time. So
so the Hertz, the like vacation,
car rental
Airbnb, anything that requires a large group of people to go somewhere and be together in a confined space, concerts, sporting events. We talked about it like on the first cast when like I realized that something really big was happening was because they canceled the NBA. NBA is a huge money-making venture, right? A lot of value there. When the NBA was like, hey, we can't continue, that's the finals. We're in the playoffs. You can't keep the playoffs going? How much money are we losing here? Like, this is going to be a huge shock.
Huge deal.
And it wasn't the actual virus. It was the response to it. It was like, well, the chances, the risks are such that we simply can't tolerate them, and we have to stop this activity. So those are the things that suffered the most from the initial shock of the virus and the reaction to it. And now we're sort of playing out in public. Everybody's debating where is the safe margin, right? How much should we be afraid? How concerned do we need to be? What precautions do we need to take, right? Do I need to wear a mask here? Do I need to wash my hands this many times? Or when should I, spray them with disinfectant? And what is the safe but effective, because we have to continue life, right? We can't just stop doing things.
That's the hard thing that like people have been like really like starting to fight and reject, right? Because they feel like they're not able to live anymore, and now they're not able to live like they've become accustomed to, right? And that makes a person or some people go stir crazy,
right?
Or whatever, and you're gonna fight more from that. I'm wondering, just a thought. I wonder if like this response, and it feels like everyone is responding in solidarity. They're all kind of doing it together, right? Everybody's like, oh, football's shutting down. Oh, baseball's shutting down. Oh, okay, we're all going to shut down. All right. Everybody agree? Okay, everybody agrees, right? And it's almost like that. I wonder if it's also like one of those social herd mentality that we're so there now that it's like we look to one and then all big portions of society follow suit. I've never seen that, I don't think, before in the past. Now, granted, I don't think we had as easily a view into what everybody's doing so instantly, right? Because of the technology that we have access to now. But that just feels like, okay, there's something that I question. Is like, wow, everything is just so strong,
right?
Like togetherness, even though everybody doesn't agree, and everybody still has their opinions and shit like that. It's just an interesting thought that's been on my mind that goes like, wow, are we supposed to just go along, walk along, and look at everybody on the sides going like, we're going the right way, right? Are we asking questions? Are we, checking things? Like, do we really need to check, right? So, and people are, right? And that's when you get the two sides where it's like, oh, too much, or, oh, you have to do it all the time. It's like, okay, let's just have discussions. Shit.
Right.
So just a thought of mine.
Yeah, it was almost too fast for that discussion. The discussion was really important to have, and we had it during the crisis, right? So when you're in the middle of the crisis, when you're in the middle of the shit, it's really hard to see what's going on. And right, but we didn't have any other option, right? We were in the middle
Right.
of like, okay, people are being infected. We have these tests. People are testing positive. People are going on respirators. Those people who are going on respirators, a lot of them are dying. What do we do? Well, we want to save lives, right? And we don't want to die. So we have to act quickly,
Right.
and we have to act decisively. And we did, right? We changed the world over the course, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. The world was drastically different than it was previously. Not unrecognizable, not a whole new system of, complete anarchy and breakdown, but everybody was aware that the things had changed. The stakes of life had been a little bit altered. And there's now always in the back of your head, okay, there's a deadly communicable disease out there that I need to be aware of. Process that as you will, right? And we all were like, well, how do I process that? How do I think about that?
Yeah. I what's weird is I almost feel like if I like died tomorrow, right? And you somehow the technology is created and you bring me back online. Mnemonically, I feel like coronavirus, right? 2001, like there's different like key phrases that could like bring back big social constructs just off of like how powerful those are, and those words are backed with a bunch of action or some type of thing that happened that really affected everybody. I think that's pretty interesting how socially connected and hardlined into society we are, even though we are also individuals. So it's pretty
yeah
deep.
I mean that is a really interesting point, is that it was sort of the social media and that increased level of connectedness that technology gave us that allowed us to have this really powerful, fast, maybe overreaction. But it was a reaction, right? It was a very swift move. And it was because everybody was on the same page. Everybody was hearing the same news. Everybody was like, hey, I know what's going on in China. I've seen all these different graphs. I've seen what's happening in Italy, right? I know all this stuff. I've seen it. So obviously we need to do something. Where we started to disagree was like, what should we do and how much should we do? But everybody knew that it was time for an action.
Right. Well, and so something about this is just like the Black Plague, which you're just bringing up, which would have been a huge thing, right?
Right.
This may be prep for if anything does, because I mean, we as humans are advancing. Like it feels right. Like physiologically, we're lasting longer because of more we know about our body and more medical information that we have, and able to keep us not only to have things replaced, but live longer. Like just because we know what to do healthily for our type of DNA, right? It's for our specific types of bloodlines that we have, which I think is pretty amazing. So like us moving that fast, even if it's an overreaction, could possibly be absolutely great, because it didn't turn out to be the Black Plague, because we've responded so quickly to do so, which is like that's the positive things that it's like that really makes everybody go like, all right, let's do it, the over the top response, then we can like pull back. Because the opposite, you can't, motherfucker, right? You don't pull back in time. Hospitals get fucking taken over, right? And overblown. You can't affect, and then it spreads out, and then you're fucked, right? Then the anarchy really does happen, because you can't control anything, because shit starts to break down. So like, with how many people we have on this planet, I get it. Like it's I don't know of a better way that you could, especially with how many people are involved in this planet. So
it's everybody, right? We're all on the same planet.
Everybody.
Earth. We're all human beings.
We are.
Okay, and so this you really nicely set me up for a second section that I wanted to talk about. So thank you for that, which is memes versus genes, right?
Okay.
In the past, we were sort of limited in our ability to fight disease by our genes, right? There wasn't much that like we could think about to do, because we didn't know enough. We didn't have germ theory. We didn't know enough biology, right? It's just like, well, the people who are going to get it and die are going to get it and die, and we don't really know why. And the people who survive for whatever reason are going to survive, and maybe we'll attribute that to some sort of divine intervention or luck,
or you're just strong or you're weak.
Just strong or weak, right? We didn't know. Now we do know, right? We're able to do like RNA tests and get quick results within a week that tell you whether or not you have this one specific disease. And
Right.
modern medicine has like all of these possible treatments that are like going to be thrown at it until we find the one that works. And when we, do that, we're responding mimetically, right? We're going to get some immunity via vaccine at some point because of memes, not because of genes. We're not gonna. It's the people who survive are not gonna be survivors simply because they had the right genes to survive this particular infection, but because they
Okay.
lived in a society that had the technology that was able to isolate the threat, understand the threat, model the threat, and then respond accordingly. So that's
Knowledge is power.
knowledge is
Wow.
power.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why in this case, the response was so much more than the initial signal, right? The initial signal was pretty small. Like, hey, some people
Right.
are getting sick and they're dying in an unusual way in a region of China that nobody's ever heard of before February of 2020, right? Unless you live there,
Right.
right? Nobody knows about Wuhan. Wu-Tang? Wu-Tang I know about. Wuhan, I don't know.
No.
No. But all of a
Nice.
sudden, this signal gets amplified, right, by our mimetic systems, our social media, our scientific inquiries, right? Data processing, machine learning, all of these technologies come about, and suddenly it's like threat detected, respond, and we responded,
Right.
right? The systems
Interesting.
did what they were supposed to do, and maybe it was an
Mimetic
overreaction.
systems.
But
Okay.
the mimetic systems, right, we're only working with the amount of information that they had. And like I said, when you're in the middle of the shitstorm, as the crisis is unfolding, it's difficult to get a lot of information. And as you said, if you're dead, you're dead. It's over. Game over. So we might as well be
Yep.
on the side of caution here. It
Right.
seems more likely that we'll survive if we do these, things, which seem eminently doable. Stay in your
Yep.
house. Don't run around and have giant uh, parties and raves and cough on everybody that you know. That these events will pretty
Sports
clearly,
events.
yeah, be the kind of place that we don't want to be involved in. And okay, that's fine. We'll change. Society can mimetically alter itself.
Agreed. And Berserkula said
Mm-hmm.
something, so we'll read that now with your nice little pause. It's funny that we still go into the same reactions that we would of even if we had no idea how diseases worked. It's the end of the world. God is unhappy with us, etc. Yeah, it's interesting when. Well, I mean, when we don't know enough, which clearly that's what we're getting from everybody is we don't know enough.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, that's what put us into the lockdown because it
Mm-hmm.
seems to be when our scientific community and our leaders of the world go like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
That's when we have to do the biggest reaction. And some unfortunately we can't get everybody to go, right? Because I mean, human beings are human beings. They're going to do what they want to fucking do whether you tell them to or not, right? Some people are
Well,
are like, even adults are children. You have to drag them kicking and screaming. So some mimetic systems, I think, honestly, they're not necessary for me, but they're still necessary for lots of society. I
mm-hmm.
think religion is great. It helps keep a lot of people who, if they weren't busy doing that, would be doing other shit, would not be good.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the mimetic systems like religion and like social groups that focus things towards a good. Because if you don't give somebody a toy to play with, they're gonna find other things to get their hands on, and
Mm-hmm.
it's look out. We are creatively crazy. As human beings, we
Yeah.
get into all kinds of trouble. But yeah, it is funny that we still have, at the end of the day, we still have the same reactions. Even if we didn't know how diseases work, we would still probably react like this.
Yeah.
But maybe that's our survival, right? Maybe that's the thing deep down in our monkey brain that we came from that says, dude, okay, scary big thing, we understand more, but we still don't understand it fully. So full lockdown, put the
Right.
barriers up, alert all of the tribe, right?
Right.
Everybody's in lockdown. Sorry, shit's changing,
Mm.
and we'll even hurt some of you to keep it from following and towing the line so we don't all get destroyed.
Right. Yeah. It's the society as a greater whole still holds on to, like, even individually not everybody believes in these specific mimetic systems, as a whole we do, right? The totality is that we know that there's some sort of like unexplainable thing that causes reality, whatever you want to call that. And
Right. Yeah.
we should try and be aware and understand what that is, right? Whether you do that through religion, through philosophy,
Through meditation,
through
through
whatever, right?
pondering.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we know that there's more things out there that we don't know than what we do know. And so when this challenge comes, it's like, yeah, well, when we encounter this unknowable or unknown thing, respond in these ways. Those are mimetically pre-programmed into us. The world's ending.
Right.
I need to act in this particular way to preserve my reality. Right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise the world ends.
Yeah. Yeah, because this thing is aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and it's prolific, and it apparently. So like that's when it's like the most extreme case where we need to rise and meet the challenge of that how like it's attacking us. It's actively doing so in a very aggressive manner, in a way that like really makes us go like, everybody, we need to take heed, and rightly so. But then how do we go about it, and is that true, and what do we do?
Yeah. Well, so that's where the zero trust comes back in. Is that, all right, we have a quick, emotional, fast response. That's inevitable. That's human nature. When somebody points a gun at you, your heart beats faster, your adrenaline flows, you got to figure out what's going on. And then now we're in this process, and this podcast is part of that process for us, figuring out, okay, back up, wait a minute, which parts of the narrative that I took in were true, which ones were not, where did I go wrong, what statements did I make that were incorrect, or what actions did I take that may have seemed beneficial at the time but in fact were not, what responses am I having that seem to be proper responses but in retrospect, well, maybe they were less protective than I thought, or the threat was different than I originally understood it, right? And so that's what we're now working through, is to like come out of the emotional part, and
which I think we're finally out of, right? Because we've sat with it for a little bit, and that allowed us to remove that, all of the whatever chemicals that have really pushed through us, and we've kind of become numb to that. Now we can start thinking through it.
Right, and we're all going through that at different velocities, but that's the
Good
trajectory of society. It's like, okay, we understand that there are some things that we can no longer do, like we can't have concerts and like big gatherings of 100 plus people, but we can probably safely do X, Y, or Z, right? These smaller things, we can go to a restaurant, as long as this restaurant's not packed with people. Well, let's make sure that there's some sort of protections in place, right? And that's this second part that we're now flowing through of, okay, maybe we took actions that were too aggressive, maybe there were things that we didn't see that we should have seen, and now we're processing and working through that. And so that's I have in the notes, right, positive and negative feedback loops. There are certain things, certain actions that were like, okay, these are good actions, these are working, these are protecting people. And there were other things that were like, oh, this is actually breaking down systems, this is working poorly, this is not the outcome that we wanted, this is exposing flaws in our system and our understanding of ourselves. And those are decreasing in stability, those are fading away, right? The idea that we all need to go into an office, sort of fading away.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Can you like throw a couple positive, a couple negative that came about because of our response and what we've done with the pandemic?
I'm not sure, right? It may be too early to tell. In the long run, right? I think there's going to be. We talked about this a little bit. That the psychological violence of having gone through this has affected a lot of people, right? And so that's to be dealt with.
Mhm.
But the positives are kind of the technical solutions, the creative ways in which we were like, oh, we can adapt to this. Um, we
Numetically, we now have gained experience,
hmm
so to speak, right? We've leveled up there. We
right.
can, if we have another one like this, which we will,
Mm,
it seems to be rolling around again, a part 2 of enforcement and reaction. So it's definitely we've got some experience. So that's, I mean, I think that's a positive thing. We don't like it when we're going through it. Like that I
sure.
get. Like it's just not like some of the stuff is not fun. Having to deal with it, like you would call it, and when you first said it, I like kind of took me aback. I was like, you're being a little dramatic, but you're not. Like I've come to that realization that it is.
hmm
Again, when I was going through like just the emotions and emotions of processing the data that was coming in and how people were affected and how I felt about it, I realized that it really created upheaval in my stableness right
Right.
inside, because I see so many of my brethren, people, right, even people that I had not really connected with in a while, affected so strongly that is definitely not fun to go through while it's going through, but we've gained experience anyway, right?
hmm
An apt a thing to say is, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's
Right.
it's good. We made it through. What are we going to do with this? And just like you said, we can do this, right? We wow, we've got this. We can do this. Look, we
Yeah.
just experienced it.
That
I'm not
that's
dead.
that's the like maximum positivity takeaway. Is it like,
Mhm.
okay, society didn't immediately degenerate into Mad Max. Good. Right? We had enough
Good.
flexibility and enough trust in one another that, okay, we're having a little bit of social upheaval and reassessment, but it's not just, complete anarchy. And
Right.
so our systems were resilient enough to take the shock and to also take the shock of the adjustment needed, right? So I was
Right.
worried that they were too fragile, that the fragility was such that even though this was a pretty small shock, all things considered, to what could happen,
Mhm.
that
You thought we were
the
gonna break down
the
more?
systems would break down more. And
Okay.
there's definitely, I don't think anybody would argue, more stress now, right? The system is more stressed, but the system is still
Right.
functional, right? Food is still
Yeah.
being delivered to grocery stores. Gasoline is still
Toilet
there
paper's
for
even back.
toilet papers, even back, right? We
Yeah,
survived.
exactly.
We
We
survived. But
survived the shit
we
show.
we are still in that uh, second part where we see which parts of this greater whole of our society did break down, and now we'll have to, okay, why did they break down? What happened here that was, caused them to fail when we needed them to succeed, and how can we re-engineer them?
Right. Maybe
You
a
know,
stress test, if you will, on the whole global sociological system,
sure.
right? Which again, I mean, you could look at that as a test run for like, well, there we are. And honestly, like now that I think about it, one of my goals for human beings, I think, is to be able to grow outside of this planet, right?
Mm,
Because we just need to. I think for our understanding of things, we're going to need to be out there on other planets experiencing what it's like. So, like, period. Like, that's just like, that's the way we're going to grow. And if we don't, we're going to be very limited in the true understandings of things unless we're out in it. But that's just because of how I live this life, right?
mm,
I have to go through things, do things with my hands to experience things and truly get them. And I think humans really benefit from that. So, we need to do that. And I was going there for a reason. Oh, the system was put to a test and it succeeded. We would need to have those systems in place and have them be successful on such a large scale to do anything like interplanetary traveling.
hmm
So we need to get these things, because we have a lot of infighting still on this
Sure.
planet
Sure.
for an advanced technological society. That shit needs to be fixed quick, like,
Mm,
period. Right? Two-party system, like bullshitting, killing each other. The racial like systems that are failing, that haven't worked, that are just really just poor and need to be broken. The rich and the poor things, like all of this stuff, needs to be fixed. And I think that social conscious and awareness is becoming in full force and in like everybody's focus. It really is, and everybody's going that direction, whether you want to or not, kicking and screaming.
yeah.
Um, I don't necessarily like it as fast as it's going, but maybe it's necessary. Those are things that have just come up more that I think about it going like, wow, on other cases, we got to think about all options. In
Sure.
other cases, this may be a very big possible positive net gain for humanity and society as a whole. We've been needing to do this. So like, good. It's not
Yeah.
fun while we're in it, and we're not doing it perfectly, but we've done it. We've got some experience in it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the best takeaway, right? Is that for a little while, we all realized that we're in a global community, that a sickness that affects someone all the way across the world in a province in China that we've never heard of before is now going to disrupt my life. And that's how connected we are. That's how interconnected all human beings have become, is that your sickness is no longer your sickness, it's my sickness too. It's something that I have to deal with and I have to take precautions with in my life to protect you. And
right
this is the whole social justice thing is the same sort of thing. It's like, hey, wait a minute, there are people who have been systemically discriminated against and held back and pushed and pulled and forced to do things that were not right, and we need to fix that too, because we're all interconnected, we're all going the same place, right? Which, as you stated, out into the stars, right? That's where we all want to be. Stars my destination. Better world out there. But if our one Earth collapses and fails to support us, if those systems break down, we can't get there. We can't get to that promised future that we want. And so we're all going to have to work together, and we're going to have to function together better, right? It was like, well, we did okay. The system didn't break down, but was it a perfect response? Was it a really great response?
Right.
It's time for a zero trust analysis of that response.
Of that response. Well said. Going into what Berserkula said is, I think people will look closer at elder care. And then she said growing pains, which absolutely, that's what we're going through, is the growing pains. But like, so looking closer at these systems that I mean, again, yes, absolutely, elder care is going to be addressed. It's been needing to be addressed, but also, like, I think within that also our needed ones that are mental health, like that's going to be a huge thing that we're really going to need to we've been needing to address with all the school shootings and stuff like that. Really has to do with, I think, a lot of mental health. Same thing with people that are homeless. So all of those, I would figure all of those people into the same kind of category of people that really need help, that can't do it on their own. Like, those systems we really need to fix or do something about, or identify and really like create this way of doing things better. Like, I've wanted to go into that for a while, because for me, for some reason, I get along better and I really enjoy time with older people because they appreciate you being there, right? They have these wise things to say. They're so like fun to talk to, and absolutely. And we need like more people to be interested in that, to make that systematic change. But yeah, we need like those hard looks, and those other things need to break down. Kind of like we were talking about it, I think a couple episodes ago, about the whole police force being addressed into how we're going to actually do that. Maybe we need to take some services away. It was like, that's, for me, that's a net good. Whereas before I was a little like, whoa, there's way too hard sides again. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute, there's things that they shouldn't be doing anyway to remove their stress too. Also, people are finally going, hey, they need more training. Fucking duh, Jesus.
Right.
Like, absolutely, we need to address these things.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is now a really good opportunity to review these things, right? Elder care, but I think more generally healthcare, like how healthcare is going to be done. The way that we're doing it in America is kind of become unsustainable, and the pressure of the virus just sort of proved that it broke. Yes. Right? You can't have this sickness and then expect people to walk away with medical bills of hundreds of thousands of dollars. They can't pay it.
Yes.
So we have to do something different with how we treat medicine. We have to do something different with how we treat mental health. We have to do something different with how we treat all of these like kind of social problems that we wanted to just kind of put away. And say,
we have to address how we treat life.
Yes.
Right, the value of life,
Mm.
because again, that our, especially in America, our medical system really, it puts a big price tag to that life, because it knows everybody will pay whatever whatever at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, one of the downsides to capitalism that I'm not a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of capitalism, don't get me wrong. I'm not a huge fan of that byproduct that really fucks our health industry, because
Right.
then it makes that to whereas you have to put value on things, and that's going to be the most valuable thing. A person's life, they will pay anything for. They will pay the top tier, the most, the absolute one. So unfortunately, that is a rigged game.
Yeah.
Not okay. That is, so I'm not a socialist. I don't know, I don't like socialism, but
Yeah.
what we have is not working. Like, that's not, no, too high of prices is the ridiculous thing for value of life.
Sure. So
Right.
that takes us back all the way to cash rules everything around me. Maybe it shouldn't, right? Maybe there are certain sectors
For
or certain things
yeah.
that where we're like, wait a minute, actually, money is not the ultimate good that we're searching for here. Maybe it's human happiness or human, success, right? Whatever that might mean,
And how are we
it,
define that? Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
this has been the wake up call, not to like socialism as in like, okay, we're all going to become communists and everybody's going to drive the same type of car and we'll all get exactly the same wage and everyone will be the same and we'll be in lockstep and everyone will be, removed from
No one will
being
strive
an
for
individual.
more,
Right.
because
No
why
one
the
will
fuck
strive.
would you do
Yep.
that? You would get nothing for it. Yada yada.
Yep. Yep. But it's like, well, in certain situations, in certain systems, we can't have cash ruling everything around me, because the full outcome of that is now starting to be seen. I'm like, wait a minute, is that really what we want as the outcome for for certain people to get all of the maximum gain and then other people to become complete losers and their lives are basically just forfeit? Is that how we
Right.
want to proceed as human beings into the world?
Right. I
That's
don't think
that's the
so.
opportunity, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the moment of reflection that we can now have. Like, okay, when we were faced with this terrible disease, this terrible crisis, how did we respond? How did we treat each other? How did we protect each other?
Treat each other.
What systems were in place to encourage us to protect each other, and what systems were in place that discouraged that were caused behavior that we didn't actually want? And that's kind of now what we're thinking about, and that's what we're talking about.
Right. I gotta say, this episode is one that I feel most hopeful from.
Mm-hmm.
It's been nice. It has been so because some of the stuff we talk about, like, definitely it riles me up. Now that there are things that stuff that, like, I'm thinking about as we're talking, that definitely have emotional, strong responses in me. But like, I really like, I liked what we went through. And how we went through it. Obviously, we're going to get more detail continuing as we move forward throughout multiple other episodes. But I really found a hopefulness in this one, and just like us talking about, like, well, wait, maybe there. Let's look at it now, since we're removed from the immediacy of our responses to the thing, that huge thing that's changed our life. Let's look at it in more of a multi-factored, a multi-layered way, and let's not be so like, not this or that. And it's just like, okay, multiple things. But clearly things, it's shined light on things that we've been needing to look at. We've been looking at, right? Healthcare has been a huge thing in Americas over the last 10 years in regards to politically what they want to address. Absolutely. Like Obamacare came into within our last 8 years. That's 8, whatever it was. So like, it's huge. We're making changes. People are ready to deal with these things on a larger scale.
Yeah.
It's we need to do it. And all of us are gonna have to go. Sometimes kicking and screaming, sometimes willingly.
Yeah.
And it's good. And I think we all go through the different phases too. Sometimes we're going to be kicking and screaming. I will kick and scream. So other times I'll be like, yes, or be telling everybody else to go like, stop kicking and screaming. Come on, because we need to do this, right? This is the right way. Like, if you don't have another way, we got to go this way, because we got to go some way.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's why we started this this discussion, is that it was like a moment of crisis. Like, we are confused, and we can only fix our own confusion in our own heads to a limited degree. To really get pushed through, right? To get that laxative, as
Yeah, great
Ursula says,
analogy.
right? Yeah,
We are constipated. The virus is the laxative.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we gotta
How's that?
we gotta take a minute and put some new systems into place. So that's where this zero trust cast came from. It's like, hey, we need a new system for us to communicate, for us to have this weekly live cast discussion for anybody to come and see that we'll put up. And this conversation, just having it, allows us to start to break down and see, okay, what was it that happened?
Put it out there.
Because we had an emotional response, we acted on it, but we weren't really sure where our destination was. I was still not sure what the destination of this cast is, right? But I know that this system is working properly, right? Because we're having these really good discussions. We're getting deeper into our own thoughts about these things and seeing things that, alone, just sitting and cogitating on this, I'm not going to get to. I have to have somebody else bounce off, and we got to have this back and forth
dialogue,
right? To actually see what we think and what we know and where our biases are.
Right.
So once again, thank you.
And to fully get it fledged, because I know, like, I'll run through, like, really quickly a lot of thought processes and a lot thought experiments, and come to conclusion and keep going with it, not necessarily checking them. That's when I get the chance to check them by coming out and talking with you, and I'm extrapolating on a couple of, like, things where I think we need to go throughout this cast tonight. And that's it. It's the only way that I really, and it gets me excited. It's the only way that I can really go, like, ooh, like, could it be applicable? Is that, do other humans who are of similar or not dissimilar, do they have those thoughts as well? How could I change my thought? How can they affect me to have me more forks in my thought process to continue down and fully get a picture of what I really mean and what I'm really trying to process and chew through. It's necessary. I can only do it with another brain.
Yeah.
It's like two brains together. Oh, I can't wait until we can really do brain to brain. Mind meld, baby. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
At least that's my hope.
I think
some people don't want it. I want it.
Yeah. There's a lot of possibility space in the future. There's a lot of things that we think are impossible now that will become possible. And
true.
I've talked about the rate of change and kind of the singularity happening. And that's just more and more obvious, right? It's just become more and more inevitable in my mind. And whether it's good or bad is up to us. And there's some sort of responsibility that we have to ourselves to take that into account, to take into account that these systems of change are growing in power, are growing in their scope and their abilities. And we need to shepherd them carefully, right?
Yeah, and educate ourselves.
And practice good security, right? For our own selves. Or it's kind of like a hygiene of the mind. So let's not let.
That's a tagline. That's nice. A hygiene of the mind.
Yeah,
I
let's
really
not
like that.
These negative, sick, demented thoughts survive. Let's practice zero trust. Let's find the things and the systems in ourselves, in our fellow man, and be like, hey, wait a minute, these are not profitable, not in a monetary sense,
monetary way,
but in
a value sense.
Yeah, in a human value sense.
Yeah,
these are not profitable to continue.
Which is cool, because I think this also, we can help, especially by this conversation today, start trying and removing that value connected from cash rules everything around me.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, that's cool to remove that. Just like you were saying, was like, you were kind of fun with, like, no, the remove the cash. It's value. Value is the thing that drives us, but we kind of, like, value equals money. No, not necessarily. So you got to pull that away. You got to keep thinking that's together.
Yeah.
So
here's kind of my takeaway, right? we'll go all the way back to Cash Rules Everything Around Me. Go and listen to that song. Listen to it again if you've listened to it before. If you've never heard it, listen to it. And ask yourself, are they saying that that's a good thing or not? Listen to the lyrics. Is Cash Rules Everything Around Me is true, but should it be? And that's where I think we should probably leave off.
That's where we should end. That is a fucking beautiful thing. You got some homework, everybody out there. Oh, I'm gonna do it. I fucking love it. And we'll come back with the. I'm gonna put that right here.
Yeah, we can just come right back to what we think, right? What
cool.
did we learn from that? And
absolutely.
So I hope our viewers enjoyed this, and I know I did. Thank you very much.
I know I did.
Mr.
I always do.
Yep. And
thank you there, Entropy Sword. And
that,
until next time, next Sunday.
Next Sunday, 8 o'clock.
Be well, everybody. Practice zero trust to keep your sanity. Practice your hygiene of the mind. I love that shit.
All right.